Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Planning Board meeting, December 11th, 2019. Present tonight, we have myself, Chairman Daniel Edmiston, Richard Clark is the Vice Chairman, Steve Wetruba is the Clerk of the Board, William LePage is a member, Lou Perrin is a member, and we have also Bill Scanlon, who are sitting in for Don Johnson. Let's get right to the agenda. First item is approval of the minutes from November 13th. Has anybody had a chance to read the minutes?
I'd like to move that we approve the minutes of our meeting, November 13th, 2019.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passed. Get two copies circulated, please.
Whoa.
All right, item B, we have a request for a one-year extension for the Stebbins Drive extension subdivision. That is item number C in our books. There's a letter here from Summit Engineering and Survey. We have a, just to quickly summarize, to whom it may concern, they're asking for an extension of 1 year on a plan that was approved on December 14, 2016. Plan book and plan is Plan Book 924, Plan 23. The reason for the new extension request is due to the transfer of ownership from the previous owner, Wendy Petrinos, to the current owner, T. Reardon Builders, on October 26, 2018. Plans to complete the subdivision were then delayed due to an appeal made to an order of conditions issued by the Dudley Conservation Commission on July 25, 2019. The appeal has since been resolved by the Mass DEP. Any questions the planning board might have? All right. No questions. I will accept a motion.
I move that we grant the extension as requested to the new owners.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. There's no discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. All right. Moving right along to item C. We have A&R plans. The first one is from T. Reardon Builders, Stebbins Drive Extension, lot line adjustment for 2 lots. Is that you? Yes. Come on up, sir. We don't have a sign-in sheet, although we should.
Oh, sorry.
Good evening, Nick Kondik, Summit Engineering. Thank you. So this A&R is related to the subdivision extension that you just approved. So on the plan you can see the current lot line. All we're trying to do is just change that lot line. It's currently 2 lots. We're just changing the lot line to keep the 2 lots. We're not adding any more lots, not combining any. The reason for that is because there was only one area down in the back of the lot where we convert. So, basically, we're squeezing 2 septic systems down in the back in the western part of the lot. So we had to make that line so they could get access down to that area.
All right, so the dashed line going through the middle is the existing lot line between Lot A and Lot B.
Correct.
There is a access easement going down through the area,
Correct.
and the proposed lot line would basically be dividing the access easement, for the most part.
Correct. They'd have to, they'd have to share that one easement, just because there's a pretty substantial slope right there. So there's no room to have 2 access roads to stay on each other's property. So that's the whole reason for the easement right there.
So it looks like Lot B is gaining a little bit in area.
Yeah.
But they're both still well over the.
Yeah, they both
limits
have
here, right?
plenty of frontage area.
109. right, so. This doesn't affect the buildable area at all, does it? For setbacks? Being so far back in the property there?
What do you mean by
So
buildable
There's
area?
a side setback of 15 feet,
But
right?
The building setbacks are shown on the plan by those,
All right, okay,
Lines.
there's small dotted lines, right?
yeah, so
Oh, okay, now I see them, yep,
it looks like there's probably enough room to comply.
agreed. No waivers or anything, it's just
No waivers.
needed?
This is an
Or-
approved subdivision way, so
That's true, too.
it's eligible for an A&R endorsement without having to actually build the road.
Does the board have any questions?
So you guys are just here to do a modification of the property lines, that's it?
Yes.
Correct, yes.
We already approved these lots,
Stebbins Drive, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
and it's gonna be a private road? The two individuals are gonna maintain it?
It was approved as a private road back in 2016, and it's, they want to keep it a private road as of right now.
So you're talking about Stebbins Drive extension being private.
Extension, yes, yeah.
Did you mean the easement, or
No,
did you mean?
I was just asking because I wasn't here when it was approved, so I just wanna, here it says private way, I just wanna make sure that's still in effect, that these two homeowners are responsible for that roadway,
Yes, that's correct.
not the town.
That's correct, yep.
I mean, they could build it to town specs and then come to town meeting for approval. acceptance. But I don't know if that's your intent.
As of right now, I don't think it is. I know the Tobin Farms is in the process of being accepted by the town, but I think as of right now, we just want to keep it private. The extension, Stebbins Drive extension, yeah.
My only concern as a board member is what happens if down the road they do wanna get it accepted by the town? Cause it's already in the subdivision and then it doesn't meet town's requirements on the road. I mean, I'm
They
not.
have to build it to town
Yeah,
regulations.
okay.
So right now, it's a private way for those two houses, and if they wanted to have that accepted for some reason, they would have to go in, upgrade, make sure that it meets everything, and then go on the town warrant. It looks like, just based on the cul-de-sac, that they've already talked to someone in the town to get that approved like this, obviously, so. Or else it'd just be a single drive, most likely. Yeah, there are no questions? Be willing to entertain a motion?
I got one more other question.
Yep.
Just a crazy question.
Sure, yeah.
I'm looking at your plan here and it shows the roadway 50 feet wide. Is that right? Am I crazy?
The right of way?
Yeah.
The right-of-way is 50
50
feet, right?
But the
50
road's
foot
gonna be
wide.
how wide?
The road itself, when it was approved, I believe it was 20 feet.
Okay,
Or I think it had like an apron of 20 feet of pavement. I don't think,
okay.
other than that, I don't know if it was approved to be a paved road. But I do know there was an apron that had to be paved, that was part of the original subdivision plan.
Looks good to me. Thank you.
If there are no questions, does anybody want to make a motion? Let me reword that. I'm looking for a motion. Just do it again. I'm looking for a motion to accept the revised lot lines between Lot A and Lot B off of the Stebbins Drive extension. Plan references in Plan Book 786, Plan 89, Plan Book 924, Plan 23, Plan Book 882, Plan 42. It's the board's pleasure. Nobody? I can't make a motion, guys, you gotta help me out here.
All right, I'll make a motion that we approve as read by the chair.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Aye. Opposed? So we need 2 signed copies?
Okay.
Plus,
Amount for the Mylar?
I don't have it for Mylar, no.
Did Carol leave one for us? I'll go get a pen for the Mylar.
It'll take us a little while.
You never seen it go where through where?
I've seen it go right through a pond. Why isn't the shore or the high water mark of that pond, why isn't that the actual?
Is that wetlands or?
No, that's a pond.
Yeah.
Again, this plan was accepted in 2016, before my time on the board, before any of our time on board. I don't know if we can go back and revisit that.
Yeah, okay.
Just as a point of curiosity, do you know why that lot line goes through the pond and not just to the shore of the pond? This lot A, I think?
This pond, right here, this big, long, skinny pond, look at the lot line. The lot line goes like into the pond, almost all the way across, and then cuts across. I mean, traditionally, shouldn't the lot line actually follow the shore, the high water mark of the?
Well, that line was created, we didn't just create this line. That line was created of the original full Cobre Farm subdivision.
Oh.
So I'm not sure why
Oh,
they did
okay.
that.
All right, so that could go back way.
Right, to 2016 or before?
They probably just did it to get area.
Those
for a
guys?
lot.
Yeah, they're still asking questions if they should have asked in the meeting.
I wouldn't even really consider it a pond. It's, you know, it's 3, 4 feet deep.
Wet year round.
Yeah, no. 3 or 4 feet deep,
But
that's.
yeah,
Just,
I'll tell the people who are paying for waterfront lots that it's not a pond.
Hey, we need 2 of these. You guys want to circulate that one? You want to keep that one? You want to hold on to it? And then Bill's gone to get us a,
Did I sign that one?
I think so.
It's scribbly, it's me.
Oh, you already have a second one going?
Yep.
Oh,
This is the first one, that's
This
the
one is
second one.
complete, I think, if all signatures in. This one's still working, and we're gonna get the Mylar shortly.
there you go, sir. You guys want to put the Mylar on the table and just kind of walk up and sign it so we don't kill the
yeah,
microphones?
Sure, that's fine.
All right. Away from microphone.
You make me feel cold with that jacket on.
I see.
Yeah, well, I need a bigger jacket then.
You're gonna need it soon enough.
Everybody's sick, right?
Yeah, it's not working for you.
Oh.
Ah,
You need to warm up.
All right, moving on. We have a continuation, the Depot Road Charlton LLC, property located at Noble Street, Old Mason Road. Again,
I think we're just continuing that.
just continue.
Yeah.
All right,
I thought, you know, I was hoping we could resolve that question this evening, but if the applicant doesn't want to discuss it, then I don't know whether the board feels comfortable.
I think last month when we met, last month when we met, we talked about this, and the idea was that we'd like to hear from the applicant himself. I know that months ago, this was on our agenda, and based on the original order of conditions, the number of lots that were buildable, the applicant decided to rescind the submission. And now he wants to revisit it. I'm sure there's a new argument, but we don't know 100% what that argument is right now. So I would just accept the motion right now for continuation. That's the way you want to go?
I had spoken with Andy about it last week, and I thought he said he would come and with the client to talk about it, but
Oh, yeah,
if you're not prepared to do that tonight, then,
yeah, I had.
okay.
All right, I would like to make a motion that we continue.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to continue the discussion on the Depot Road Charlton property, Noble Street, Old Mason Road. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, continued until next month. So our next meeting is going to be on the 8th of January, exactly. Christmas is getting in the way. Item D,
That's a bar humbug statement, Mr. Chairman.
discussion status report on finishing construction of and acceptance of uncompleted, unaccepted subdivision streets. Are there anything, or is there any updates for us, Bill, or?
I don't have anything on Pure Pond Estates. For Rocky Hill Estates, I did have a phone call from a homeowner who was complaining that there was ice buildup on the road after the big storm. So I called Mr. Chinaki, who said he would go out and plow it again to try to remove the ice buildup. But the owner was very concerned about public safety. It was a very slippery road at that time. So
Are there school buses using that road?
I do not know.
Yes.
All right, so it's high priority public safety, I would think, in that case.
It's a good point.
Off of Rocky Hill, the builders of Rocky Hill, I believe down further, put a new road in. You've been around a little longer than us, you might know anything about it.
No.
They put a new road in. I don't know if it's a different phase of this subdivision, but my question is, to you, if we could find out, is if this is a second phase of the subdivision, and that phase is done, why do we not have sidewalks and the top coat done before we allow them to keep building in the second phase? Chairman, is that an acceptable question?
That's a good question. Yeah.
Could you repeat that again for us?
I don't know if I can remember all that. So basically, I think they started another phase where they built
Okay.
a road,
Right?
and I believe they're building houses down there. I want to know how far along they are in that phase. If the other phase is finished, why are they starting a new phase? And that other phase has no sidewalks yet and no top coat. I guess my concern would be is how far are we going to let them go in the next phase and allow them to get more buildable lots? And they haven't even completed the other phase, and then we're stuck with another subdivision with no top coat, no sidewalks, no berm. I'd like to kind of see where they're at with that third phase, and if there are more lots that they require, I'd like to do something, I don't know what authority we have, but allow them not to build anymore until they finish the other phase.
Correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Chairman, but I believe that Rocky Hill Estates has been part of our agenda for a number of meetings now, extending back several months or so.
Yeah, it's almost a month.
And I've yet, other than Mr. Scanlon's comment about having contact with Mr. Shinaki, that's, I think, the only reference we've had in any contact with the builder or with anybody involved. So communication may not be at its best.
I'd like to get some timelines from them.
And to Mr. Perrin's point, I think maybe the time for communication has been reached.
When I spoke with Mr. Chinaki, he expressed some dissatisfaction with relations with the planning board from his perspective as well.
Really?
So,
Interesting,
I
and
don't
we've
know.
heard nothing from him. I can't know what his dissatisfaction is.
And we're basically 5 new members, right?
Right. You know, he's certainly welcome. As you can see, there are plenty of seats available this evening, so he's,
I could invite him to a meeting if you like and see if he'll come and talk about some of these
I'd like to
issues.
kind of know what phases they're at. I'd like to know from the building department if there's been any building permits pulled for that other phase and where they're at with it.
Well, in theory, they would have to get a lot release from us.
Yeah. I don't know, it could have been before any of us.
right, may have been. Yes, an invitation.
Isn't there a timeline on a lot release? We release a lot that's got to be built on before, or prior to, or before a year is up?
No, I don't think there's a timeline on it.
There's no timeline on that.
Released, and then
All
we
right,
can pull a permit when he's ready.
all right.
Moving on, Piastre Road, no new information on that one since the last meeting. We do know that that was paved, though. Country View Estates, Eisenhower Drive, I had sent you a draft letter from town council.
Yes.
Since I sent that to you, I was able to get in touch with Mr. Haney, Daniel Haney, who was the developer of that project, to inform him of the sewer department's concerns about the sewer pump station. The department believes that that is in imminent danger of failure, and they consider that an emergency, and would like to get that repaired as soon as possible before it might fail. So when I spoke with Mr. Haney, he was very, we had a reasonable approach. He wanted to know what the problem was, and he was going to contact George Petrinos, the sewer superintendent, and I think go out there to look at the situation. So it's kind of a parts are in motion right now. I don't know what the outcome of that meeting was, but what I'm thinking is it may either be resolved amicably, or we may have to go and claim the escrow so that the town can make the improvements on the sewer pump station. So I guess I would like approval of this draft letter to be sent if and when it's deemed necessary, that we have to go after the escrow, which is about $16,500 left or something of that sort.
Which is somewhat short of
Which is
what the
less than
estimate
what
of
it would
approximately
cost.
$20,000.
Right. So I don't think there's a need to send it out now. Let's wait and see what happens, but I'd like approval to send it if necessary.
Is that the only uncompleted item in that development? Is there other,
I haven't seen a punch list from,
that scares me also, taking all that money where he met the sewer superintendent a while back, and he agreed to get it repaired, and he never did.
I thought we agreed to release the money too.
Yeah, I think we talked about it. So,
there was a letter sent to Mr. Haney, I've seen in the file that Don prepared and the board authorized.
okay.
Town council, however, said that it didn't provide adequate notice to the developer. And so what happens is that if you want to claim escrow money, there's two ways to go about it. If you accept the provision of Chapter 41, Section 81U, which is the subdivision control law, the planning board can authorize release of funds up to $100,000 to be spent under the jurisdiction of the Board of Selectmen. However, the town has not adopted that section yet, which means it has to go to town meeting for approval. So that won't happen until the annual town meeting unless there's another special town meeting called before then.
Be in the spring.
So we cannot access that money until we get that vote from town meeting. So the sewer department then would have to use their own money to make the repair, and then if town meeting allowed it to, transfer the money back into the sewer department account. In other words, to repay them for what they had spent already.
So my recollection is that we had a representative from the sewer
Yes.
commission here, and we discussed this, and it was explained to us that that pump in that pumping station had already been replaced once by the town,
Mhm.
and that the reason why the pump is failing is because that storm water and everything's running in there because something about a lot topography was changed to get another lot in, and that now this is causing all of this silt and runoff and everything to go into this thing. So my big concern right now is I'm wondering what is the nature of the current failure and what is the plan to fix it? Does the plan involve being able to mitigate this from happening in the future? Because even if we put, if they just put another pump in, and, I mean, how many times is the town gonna have to go and pay to put a pump into this
Yeah.
thing?
I believe they talked about putting a riser on it and then
Right.
regrading
Okay.
the entire area.
There,
But that's definitely something, that if this builder would be the one who's gonna do this, this is definitely something we wanna make sure was
Right.
done correctly and to the satisfaction of the sewer department, correct?
I agree, and just to echo what I think this gentleman had just mentioned, from my understanding of it, if we put new pumps in, we're putting them into a bad location. And I don't know what that means in terms of longevity of the pumps, but it doesn't sound very good to begin with. So there's a couple of issues here, to Mr. LePage's point. There's the pumps, obviously, there's a need for something to be done, but there's also something to be done with regards to the location of the pumps. And if we're talking $16,000, I'm sorry, $20,000 for just 2 pumps, exclusive of anything done to the location, we're just buying X number of years, months, or whatever, and we're gonna be facing the same issue with nothing left after the 16 has been expended.
I believe it was a pretty significant amount of water that was going in there.
I would imagine so.
And the other issue is, of course, the town pays by cubic feet of waste that's pumped over to Webster, so, you know, it all adds up. And that's why they went through all this trouble of putting in all this mitigation to try and keep rainwater and stormwater from getting into the sewer system. You know, putting in these sealed manhole covers and all this other stuff, because they realized that the town was paying a lot of money, cubic feet.
The other thing too, I see here, and I'd probably get some guidance from you, with all your wisdom, is we're fixing one problem, but we're also creating another problem. We're fixing the problem with a sewer pump, but by doing that, we're depleting the remainder of the funds in escrow.
Right.
The road is not accepted yet, so there'll be no money to do whatever repairs or items that need to be fixed on that punch list. So are we gonna have another road in 10 years from now where there's new plan board members and they're still talking about Country View Estates? What is the recourse?
Yeah, I think we need maybe to have Graves Engineering go out and do an inspection of the road to find out what remains to be completed and how much that might cost.
Because my concern is now we fix this pump, the road never gets accepted, and the people that live in that subdivision who are paying taxes aren't getting town service of plowing, salting, sanded.
As I recall, Mr. Burlingame was here for one of those meetings, and I think he suggested or mentioned that there was the possibility of litigation on the part of the homeowners. I don't know whether that's gone forward or not, but that might be some way that they can redress this issue. But to your point, if Graves Engineering went out there, maybe they could look at the situation with regards to location of the pumps and come back with, you know, what is this going to cost to fix it correctly on a somewhat permanent basis?
Can we get that punch list? I mean, every time we talk about this subdivision, we don't have a punch list.
Right. Yeah, I think it would be worthwhile to know if we're gonna deplete all the
Yes,
escrow.
we need to know where we stand.
Right.
All right, so, just let me jump in here real quick. We're kind of out of order, because I was supposed to open up the public meeting at 7:15 and close it. Is it okay we just take a quick break? Let me do that, and then we'll get back to the
Yes,
rest-
sure.
other matter?
Sure.
All right, sorry, gentlemen, I just wasn't paying attention to the clock. So, we're gonna open the public meeting right now. Dudley Planning Board, public hearing, legal notice, in accordance with the provisions of Mass General Law, Chapter 41, Sections 81T and 81U, the Dudley Planning Board will hold a public hearing on Wednesday, December 11th, 2019, at 7:15 PM in the Dudley Municipal Complex, Room 321A, 71 West Main Street, Dudley, Mass., on the application of David Haynes, Post Office Box 364, Webster, Mass. 01570, for modification of a previously approved definitive subdivision plan entitled Lyon Estates, prepared by Newman Engineering LLC, 601 Shea Street, Fitchburg, 01420, dated October 6, 2019, located easterly of Lyons Road and southerly of West Main Street, further described as Assessor's Map 125, Parcel 24.1, with access from the easterly side of Lyons Road and showing 18 proposed lots. Copies of the plan and application are on file in the Planning Board office and the Town Clerk's office, both of which are located same place, and may be inspected during regular working hours. All right, so the public meeting is open, and I'm going to ask Planning Board for a motion for continuance until January 8th, 7:15, by request of the submitter of the plans. Do I have a motion?
I make a motion that we close the public meeting, continue the public meeting until Wednesday, January 8th, 2020, as requested by the applicant.
Do I have a second?
A second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, motion passed. We will meet again on January 8th, 7:15, public hearing to discuss this. And I'll close the public meeting at 7:32 PM. Thank you, gentlemen. All right, with that out of the way, if we can get back to what we were discussing. So if I could just kind of try to summarize and kind of put a plan here together, maybe a little bit. The email that we have here states the superintendent believes that the cost to repair the situation is about $20,000. He doesn't say the pump. Is that accurate? The situation, meaning the grading and everything around it, or does that just mean the pump itself?
He has gotten a quote from a contractor for around that figure.
To
But we
do
don't-
what?
Yeah, but do we know the exact scope of work?
I don't have a copy of it.
Okay,
So that's
when-
the estimate then to
When he was,
fix the problem.
yeah, when he was previously here, he discussed getting a price on, regrading and correcting it, so it's not an issue again. Whether that's the number he got for all that, we don't know.
all right, so since we are in communication with the developer, we'd like to hold that letter in our back pocket. If it's not necessary, then everything's good. If it is necessary, the planning board could vote to allow a release if that time should come.
Okay.
Let's assume that the planning board needs to release that letter, and the pump fails, or something happens before the town meeting. My understanding then is that the water department will repair that, and they will seek reimbursement at the annual town meeting.
Right.
Okay.
If it fails, I believe they have to go in and,
Right.
fix it. They
Emergency
don't-
basis.
Yep. All right, so I guess I'm trying to get at, first of all, is whatever is gonna happen there, worst case scenario, we're taken care of, we're squared away. So then, what we're looking for would be a scope of work, what's included in the $20,000, the quote there, what exactly is being proposed, and then also a punch list of all remaining work on Eisenhower Drive.
I would ask that if the scope of work does not include regrading or bringing that particular section up to whatever standards are necessary, that we request whatever the amount is to find, we request an estimate for whatever that would be. In other words, if the $20,000 is only gonna buy the pumps, then we need to know what the rest of it would be.
Right, because I'm hearing, and I echo what the planning board is saying, to simply replace the pump and have it go bad in 2 years or even sooner doesn't make much sense. We need to solve the problem,
Okay.
if possible. All right. So with the punch list, with the scope of work, we'll have enough information to hopefully address the issue of possible town acceptance of the street, which I think has been on the, I can't say on the agenda, but that's a target we've had in mind now for a good 3/4 of a year or so. I think
So-
Don Johnson was in contact with them as well, trying to figure out a way to get this accepted.
So the letter, actually, says they'd like to invite the developer to a meeting of the planning board to discuss the situation. So
Yep.
we could set up a meeting for another planning board meeting to invite the developer in.
So what's the board's pleasure? Do I kind of get a motion to accept the letter, or to authorize mailing out the letter when needed, if needed? Or how should we word this?
Have you already written the letter and you're waiting for approval of that letter?
This is the.
Or do you have the letter in
This is the
hand?
draft letter from town council. There are a couple of, blanks in here that need to be filled in.
Well, there was just dates and amounts, I
Yes,
think.
that's
yeah,
right.
yeah.
So-
All right.
The language is
So
all
what I
there.
would suggest is get a vote of the board to complete this letter and have the chairman sign it if it's deemed necessary by the town administrator and the Water and Sewer Commission to move forward on that.
All right. I would make the motion that we approve the letter when completed for release by the chair.
Before we make that motion, can I just ask the chair a question?
Sure.
Is it possible, I don't know if this is possible, can we, before we just allow this to be done, can we make it that it, how do I want to word it?
Contingent.
Contingent that the other part gets done. I just don't want to throw $20,000 away and they don't do the other part. 2 years from now, they're replacing.
So you're talking about the grading and everything,
Yes.
right?
Can we make that, the funding is approved contingent that the other piece gets taken care of? Is that, can we do that? Do we
I
have
think
that
we definitely can do
authority?
that, yeah. We
Well,
could-
I mean, I think that we have this immediate emergency which we need to get repaired. If you tie it to making the improvements to the rest of the subdivision, then you wouldn't be able to.
No, I don't think he's talking about improvements to the rest of the subdivision.
No,
We're talking about raising the grade around
Oh, I
the
see.
pumping station
Okay,
so that
sure.
we don't have
Okay, so
everything running.
just not
into-
doing the
Right.
pump, which may or may not go bad in
Okay.
2 years, but to fix that situation in its entirety,
I
pretty much.
just think we should have a contingency where we're just not throwing the pump and then
No, agreed,
goes,
Yeah.
agreed, yep.
Yeah.
I think we're all in agreement.
we'll give you the money, but you gotta do this too.
Yep.
There's
Okay.
no ifs, ands, or buts.
Okay.
I just don't know if we have that authority. I'm just
But we
asking.
do.
Yeah, I mean, you have to,
I mean, in the end of
Vote
that,
to
it
release
could
the
possibly
escrow.
come to a town meeting, or the town would go,
mhm.
we would sponsor the article in the warrant, and then the town would vote for it or vote against it, I mean, but
Mhm.
it just simply, as we're all pointing out, it just simply makes sense to try to fix the problem and not just to,
No Band-Aids.
no Band-Aid, exactly. All right, so we have a amended motion, if I may say so, to authorize the sending out of the letter if needed, contingent upon not only fixing the immediate pump, but to solve the issue as far as the grading so that we don't have the water infiltration issue that we have now. I have a second for the motion?
Second.
I have a second. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carried.
Item DE, Cobre Farm Estates. I spoke with George Slingo, the developer of that subdivision. He has gone out and put in the bounds of that road, of those roadways, and he does intend to bring it to town meeting for acceptance. There's a deadline of January 31, so he said he would get it into the planning board by that deadline so that it could get on the warrant for acceptance by town meeting.
Excellent.
Has Graves engineered confirmed everything prior to the acceptance?
I think once it comes in, they would review the acceptance plans
Okay.
and do the inspection, and require, and, ask the planning board to make sure that all the work that remains is completed.
All right, so we've gone through items A through D. We've taken care of the public hearing already. Anything on the planner's plate or anything that we're missing?
A couple of items. I'm in the process of receiving an application for a warehouse-type building at 24 Oxford Avenue. It'll come to the planning board for major site plan review. If I get all the materials in time to advertise for the 8th, I can schedule that public hearing for January 8th if you like. That lot is also in the groundwater protection overlay district, which requires a special permit from the Water and Sewer Commission because of the amount of impervious surface coverage. So they are meeting that night as well, so they would be able to hit both boards on the same night for, at least for the opening of the hearings.
They meet before us?
Pardon?
Do they meet before us on that night? or-
They do. I think they meet at like 6:15 or 6:30, something like that.
Okay.
So it's possible that they would be out of that hearing and they could come in here and tell you what the Water and Sewer Commission did on the groundwater issue. So what happens is if you, a special permit is required if you have over 15% of the lot as impervious surface coverage or 2,500 square feet, whichever is greater, and this lot exceeds both of those. So they need to provide some kind of on-site recharge and make sure that the groundwater quality is protected as well as the quantity. So that's what the special permit is intended to safeguard the town's groundwater supply. And that, I've never seen an SPGA be the Water and Sewer Commission, but that's what your bylaw requires, so that's where they have to go.
Okay.
Tomorrow, there's a meeting of the Municipal Vulnerability Program Core Steering Committee. We've had a couple of meetings on this project already. It's being completed by the Central Mass Regional Planning Commission. There will be a public workshop on January 10th, which is a Friday from 8 to 4:30. The public will be invited to the workshop, as well as town officials, to discuss how the town is vulnerable to climate change. So we'll be looking at things like stormwater, mosquito-borne diseases, potential dam breaching due to excessive rainwater, things of that sort. So wherever the town is vulnerable to climate change, we want to hear the public's comments on those issues. And the Central Mass Regional Planning Commission will run that workshop. Essentially, it's a way for the town to come and sit around tables and talk about whatever issues are of concern. So the board would certainly be invited to attend as well. I attended the first meeting of that a couple weeks ago, and this is another meeting. So
What's the location? Where is that held?
the meeting tomorrow is a core team, which includes the town administrator, Michelle Jervis, the Water and Sewer Commission, myself, and a couple of other folks. So that's kind of a closed meeting, but the public workshop will be here in the town hall. The Green Communities Program, I don't know if you're aware of that, but the town is a participant in the Green Communities Program. The town has gotten grant money for energy improvements. There's an amendment that will be made to the energy reduction plan to include the schools, the 2 elementary schools and the middle school in Dudley. There are a number of improvements that the superintendent would like to make to the Dudley schools in terms of energy efficiency. So the first step is to amend the energy reduction plan. And the Central Mass Regional Planning Commission, again, is taking care of that amendment. It will go to the selectmen and to the school district committee for endorsement of the energy reduction amendment, and then it will go into the Department of Energy Resources for approval, which would make the town eligible for the next competitive round of funding, which will be in the spring sometime. So the town intends to apply for the maximum, or at least up to the maximum of $250,000 worth of energy improvements at the schools and perhaps some municipal buildings as well. So that, I think, is a very worthwhile project. In your packet, there is a letter from the Department of Housing and Community Development that is under tab F regarding the town's subsidized housing inventory units and percentage. So there is an inventory on the 3rd page which shows the units in town which are on the subsidized housing inventory. The total amounts to 104 units are considered subsidized units in Dudley. And out of the 4,360 year-round housing units, the town has a percentage of 2.39%. Under Chapter 40B, the town is required to have 10% of its units. So you've got a long way to go. So this is just for information. If you know of any other projects which would already be qualified, I will let DHCD know that, but as I understand it, this is the current number and hasn't changed much. But just so you know, because you're under the 10%, developers can apply for comprehensive permits for subsidized housing projects, which go to the Zoning Board of Appeals, which is something they have to approve, although they can work with a developer and make modifications to the plan to minimize impacts. But generally, those have to be approved if you're under 10%. Yep. So that's where we currently stand today. Also, the Central Mass Regional Planning Commission has updated the zoning map on the May 2000 meeting zoning map change. That's now been posted on the website, so that map is available. And then the last item is at a a meeting before I started, you approved a lot release for Lot 42 in Pierpont Estates.
Mhm.
So I have prepared that lot release document. We just need one copy signed by the board for that. I just used sort of the standard form that was on the computer for that.
We're just signing here.
Yeah, so the board would sign there. And then we need a notary. Is any member of the board a notary? I'm assuming someone here in town is town clerk.
I imagine as well.
I can bring it to the town clerk for signature.
Are there multiple copies there, or we're just signing one?
You just need one.
One.
There were copies for you, each of you, if you wanted to see the form, but it's the standard form. Then I will get it notarized and get it to the developer to record it at the Registry of Deeds.
Town clerk may be a notary.
I would assume so. Usually most town clerks are. I know Nancy Runkle was, and she would notarize a lot of planning board matters.
We have a new town clerk, so.
Right.
Was comprehensive. Anything else?
No, that's all I had on the planner's plate.
Okay. Before I ask the planning board for their comments, we do have a couple of invoices here from Graves Engineering. One was looks like one's for Pierpont. Construction estimating. Peer review. Construction admin. Drafting and editing of an as-built. And then the other one is for Piastre Road, and this is for the CA, looking at the paving work that recently went on. The board want to review or approve? How do we want to progress? You guys want to look at them? You just want to blanketly? And then while we're looking at those, there was the one issue of the First Congressional Church. Do we want to
Yes.
hit on that at all,
Sure.
or?
As you know, we talked about it at the last meeting, where there was a proposal to raise the stack another 8 feet. It's currently 10 feet above the roof of the building. It sort of looks like a circular, kind of tower.
That's
They
an
want to
interesting
raise that 8 feet to install more telecommunications equipment.
Yep.
This is a project which is exempt from local discretionary review. Essentially, the only review the town has is the building permit, to make sure that, it meets the building codes. However, the planning board, voted to require a special permit application so that you could review the proposal and seek public comment and have the historical commission weigh in on the matter as well. But it's a non-discretionary kind of permit. I think you have to approve it, although you could work with the applicant to try to mitigate whatever impacts you think, would be necessary. But I think your hands are kind of tied in terms of how far you can go with it. Ultimately, you have to approve it because of the changes to the federal law in that regard. So, I haven't heard back from the attorney yet who I had forwarded a lot of the information that he had provided, as to what they intend to do. But as far as I know, the board has required a special permit, and they can either apply or appeal, so
Okay, so
assuming they will come in with a special permit.
I looked at the plans, and I was under the impression that they were going to raise it an additional 10 feet.
Yeah.
That's what I
Was it-
thought I
Maybe I have
saw.
it wrong. Maybe it's 8 feet and they're gonna raise it 10, or it's 10 and they're gonna raise it
Yeah, I thought,
18 in total.
yeah,
They
okay.
had to raise it at 10. I'm on the zoning board. They did come before us, and it was continued. And the applicant agreed to reach out to historic to get their input on it,
Okay,
and that's where it was kind of left.
okay.
I'm just curious, any members of the public?
No,
Nobody?
there's no objection. the applicant, explained how they were exempt, and he brought stuff to back that up.
You guys okay? Is the board okay with the invoices that we have?
Yes.
That was fine.
Need a
So as
motion?
I understand it, Mr. Scanlon, we get to hear what they're going to do, but we are bound by legislation or legislative act to agree to whatever they're doing.
Correct.
So, do we have a mandate in terms of we have to have all five in favor? Do we
Well,
have to
under
approve
special
this
permits-
unanimously? I mean, has the legislature been so kind as to give us some guidance on that?
Well, under a special permit, you need a supermajority, which is 4 out of 5 votes to approve.
And what would happen if you didn't have that?
If you had 2 out of 5 or 3 out of 5, it would be denied,
It would be denied.
yes.
But they would then have recourse to what, the courts or
I
something?
assume so, they'd get some relief. They'd have to go to court, it's not something the ZBA can overturn.
Yeah, I don't know, I have a philosophical issue with something coming before us when we don't have any right, we have a right to vote, but we only have a right to vote one way.
We have a right to
I
negotiate.
don't
I
know,
think
have the
is what-
Russians rigged this election too, I guess?
You need a motion on that for the bill or no?
Yeah.
Yes.
So if I can get a motion for acceptance of the invoices?
Make a motion, we accept the invoices as presented.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor? Opposed?
Would you
We're
sign
good?
those, Dan, so that?
Just sign, yeah.
Okay, good, thank you.
All right, and then we can pass that lot release along
Oh,
as well?
passing lots of paper here.
All right, any other comments from the planning board? No? We have in attendance our alternate member, Roskiglio. How's it going?
I did have, Mr. Chairman, if I did have one comment. I wanted to wish everyone a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. We don't meet again until after the New Year, so we'll try to cover both holidays in one fell swoop, so.
If I could, Mr. Chairman, we have a second meeting in January. Did you
Yes.
want to go back to the normal second and fourth Wednesdays?
Correct,
or-
yep. Yep.
So that would be.
The only reason we're skipping now is just because of the holidays.
Okay, so it would be the 22nd then?
8th and
14
8th and
days.
22nd, yep.
Okay, so the next meeting will be the 22nd.
And
Exactly.
I'd like to amend my previous comment to include Mr. Johnson as well in terms of the wishes for a happy,
Okay, I'll pass that on
safe
to him.
and healthy New Year upcoming.
Any comments for us?
I think the alternate can sit at the table. I don't know why he has to sit in the audience. He's a member of the board, just can't.
Yes, we have plenty of seats.
You could critique better from out there, right? All right, if that's it, I can entertain a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion, we adjourn?
Second?
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
We're good. Thank you much.